Anyway, hi, my name is Joanne. I am with the League of Women Voters in Loudoun County. That is in Virginia State. I say that because a lot of what we say applies to Virginia State. If not everything that we say, talk today, it will be part of Virginia State. And in some cases, federal. But anyway, so Claire came to one of our meetings and she told us a story about how one of the instances she had with the voting with her daughter. And I'm going to let you take it from here. And yeah, then we'll go from there.
Okay, so it was the 2016 election, the presidential election, the big one. And, we have always, my husband and I have two daughters with intellectual disabilities, and my older daughter at the time was old enough to vote. And we pride ourselves in being progressive and have always voted in every election. And that is something that we wanted to pass down to our children. This idea of civic responsibility. And we also have always encouraged the full participation in our communities, voting being a big part of that. And so we were full of pride and lots of naivete. And we took her to the polling booth, and we had prepped her, beforehand, talked about who she wanted to vote for, who she was looking at. And we also we were trying very hard not to influence her, allow her to have speak her own mind and that kind of thing. And, it basically came down to she wanted to vote for the girl. And, which was a thing. That's the first time we had the opportunity to do that. And, there are lots of reasons that people choose to vote for president. And I went in with her. And we went in, and I was assisting her. She typically will take my arm when we walk, not that she needs me to walk, but it usually is a morale booster and emotional support. And when we got in there, she could not speak her name, could not necessarily verify in the typical way that, she was who she said she was as a voter.
Nervous or
partly nervous. She's limitedly verbal. So she could say a lot of things yes or no, but like she can't recite her address, which is the typical thing that they ask you. So I immediately jumped in to help. And we were pulled to the side, and one of the Board of Elections assistants or people there working the polls said, does she require assistance to vote? And I said, well, I'm going to help her. And they, did a very quick job explaining that they have people here that can help her, that they'll pull her to the side, that they will assist her. And, I have to say that this being our first time voting, I felt probably a little bit pressure in the situation. Yeah. Because I didn't understand what her rights were, what my rights were, what the whole thing was, and I sort of let them take control.
You go and when they took control, thinking they would know better than
exactly. Yeah. Well, of course they're working the polls.
Yeah.
They know all of the regulations for voting and all of these kinds of things. So they sort of brushed her from me. They sat her down at a table where it was not private. There was no partition. And of course, we've waited in line. So there were lots of people coming through and coming in and all that kind of thing. And I stood near her, but sort of out of the way. And, I heard him talking. I heard him explaining all of the choices, and he steered her to several different choices. And the big one being she didn't get to vote for the girl. I didn't say anything, because I didn't know how to handle the situation. Right. I did then take her, with me. We went to the poll. I had her with me like you would have your child when you vote. And I voted. And so she got sort of the double experience. And I did not feel great about the experience for her. But I couldn't articulate at the time why it didn't feel right. And it wasn't until we started the project through the League of Women Voters, where we started to research
I learned
what,
so
right.
much. And what happened was she came in and told us her story, and I happened to be on a committee that was trying to that got a grant, that was trying to reach out to little deserved or little marginalized. Yeah, thank you. You're better. It was like you can be on the grant, but marginalized communities or ones who are not served as much. And I brought it to because it was Northern Virginia that was working on it, and I brought it to the committee, and they jumped all over it, and they're like, there's nothing out there that has this. Oh my goodness, though, we went through so many drafts because of the wording, and there's so much out there that I had no idea.
Well,
and that to you.
And there's also the issue of guardianship with many people. So first of all, there are, variations of disabilities. So there's physical disabilities, and we can all imagine somebody in a wheelchair.
Before we go into the different things that that are open to people with disabilities, just keep in mind that if you have a disability, whether it's temporary, whether it is seen or unseen, you can vote.
Yes.
That's first and foremost.
Everyone can vote as long as you're registered, you're in the right precinct, and you are, you've done that part of it. Everyone can vote, and no one at the polling site can tell you that you can't vote. Right.
And now we're going to go into the different aspects of how you can vote, what is offered to you as someone who is disabled. I have to admit, I do not, I am not disabled, nor do I know anyone who is. So that's why I'm glad you're here. You have experienced it and you know how to go through it. I just did the research to help put together the card that we finally published. But so what eventually did you come to that helped you to vote in the future elections? In Virginia, if anyone's watching this outside of Virginia, in Virginia, you vote every year. And I'm assuming your daughter has voted since.
Yes, she has voted since. And one of the things that I did learn was about the absentee voting. And that was one of the issues that, really, I was able to register a little over 20 young adults of voting age with various disabilities to vote when they learned about the absentee voting. And the way that works is there's two ways you can do absentee voting.
It has changed a bit.
It has changed since we've done this. So
anyone can vote.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that absentee voting has always, long been a way for, soldiers, out of the country to vote, for elderly or frail individuals to vote, or people with disabilities.
Yeah, college students too. I say that because my daughter voted absentee.
And so, college. So that's another example how you can vote absentee.
But today it's anyone, just saying, in Virginia.
And since we did this card, it's anyone can vote absentee. You used to have to be able to identify a reason why you were choosing to vote absentee. And 2A is the disability one. No one needs a reason anymore. And that is, to me, a wonderful, wonderful example of, how when accommodations are made with people with disabilities in mind, how that can expand. And, when you're rising up the most vulnerable people in our community and reaching out and offering them ways to fully participate in our civic community, it opens up and, it can help so many people. So now we have this unforeseen situation at the time that the absentee restrictions were lifted of a pandemic. And now all of a sudden, we have an opportunity for any citizen registered to vote to participate in the absentee process.
I'm going to stop you there for a second. That actually came out before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
That was voted on and came out before COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Other things came out, like the witness. You no longer need a witness.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it is it's a wonderful testament to when you really make things more accessible, that all people can use it,
Yeah.
and if you, whether, when you have an intellectual disability, and you need time to review what the questions are.
Mhm.
A lot of times, like this time, there's going to be amendments to our state constitution.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's very, it's, for a layperson, it's difficult to understand, well, if I vote yes, what are the ramifications? If I vote no, what are the ramifications?
Mhm.
And to have that ballot in front of you, to be able to look at it, reread it, understand that fully before you vote, it benefits, the right to vote idea.
Mhm.
It makes you an informed voter, whether you need that time to process because of a disability or
Mhm.
because they word it in such a way that you just need time to process
Yeah.
it. And
Absentee is one.
that's one.
The second
Early
one,
voting, they call it early voting, but the
it's
way that
called,
we
I
have
think, early in-person voting. Is that the one you're
early
talking about?
in-person voting,
Yeah.
that's actually the way that we have done it.
Yeah,
Because
I've
with
done it
our
that way.
girls, we wanted them to have the experience of going to a poll, the experience of putting their ballot in the machine, all of those things that, a lot of
Oh,
people
that's
take for
sweet.
granted.
Yeah.
And, the day of voting, people are waiting in line. It's very difficult for my girls to wait.
Mhm.
It's also very difficult for them to move quickly through things, so you have people behind you.
Yeah.
So doing the in-person early voting for their situation is, it gives them more of that full experience without having such a situation where it's a little higher pressure.
And I'm going
So
to have to interject in here again and mention that, as you said, with the absentee ballot, you can take your time and look at it. There are sample ballots online, and I'm going to plug in vote411.org, where they typically have the sample ballot in there, and you can read everything before you can go. Not only that, I found out when we were doing the in-person voting, you can check off who you want to vote for, because I remember last year there was a big issue that they couldn't tell what's Democrat, what's Republican. Not that, I mean, you should be, but that's another story. You should be
right.
researching beforehand, but you can go on the website, click on it, see what the different candidates have said, print it out, and take it with you to the, so you know who to vote for and what issues to vote for. So there's
Right.
my plug for Vote 411. I'm actually going to move you along because I think the early in-person voting, a lot of people know about it because that's just a common one. The one I think was what could have handled your situation in 2016 was the assistance to vote.
Well, and what I learned too, after the fact was and I don't know if it's true at the time, but if somebody is helping you with voting, it can be anyone you choose. It does not have to be a person who is working the polls. The voter gets to choose who helps them.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone does help you, there is an additional form. And it's a simple form. It basically just says, I requested help. This is the person that helped me, and I did this at my own free will. And they did not sway me in my vote.
And you can print that online
ahead
of time, which is probably best.
It probably is.
Or they should have some at the polling place, but I have heard that some polling places don't always have them. So I highly suggest printing it out.
All preparation ahead of time is always a good idea.
Yeah.
So that is the thing that would have really helped me in our situation in 2016. I would have had the knowledge to feel confident to speak up and say, I'm helping her. I need one of those forms. I'm going to fill this out, and I'm going to take her someplace private where she doesn't have to discuss her, vote with everybody in the room, the cafeteria.
Yeah, because they wanted privacy too. Because I know sometimes we see the disabled as children almost.
Yes.
And no, they want their privacy as well.
Absolutely.
I think children want their privacy too. But
that's right. And so for physical issues, I've since learned in all of this research, and this is for anyone who has a physical disability, whether temporary or permanent. Like you said, if you have a sprained ankle, you don't want to navigate this, the whatever. When you pull up to the polling place, there should be a phone number that you can call, and a poll worker will come to your car.
Mhm.
They will hand you your ballot. They will have all of the necessary paperwork, because they're, again, I think it's still in place. If you get assistance with voting, another sheet has to be filled out of who helped you, did they sway your vote or anything like that. And they bring it to your car and they take it back in and submit it for you.
And again, because I've been at polling places handing out material for the league, I have seen, I would suggest if you can bring someone along with you, that's
To do it.
best. If you can't, you can't. But because I remember someone who was doing that, and the woman came out of the car. It was pouring rain, and she goes, "I didn't want to come out, but nobody's answering the phone."
Right.
So she came in and got it for her husband. So again, if you can bring someone with you, I would highly suggest that.
And, I think it's also important to mention that the more that we exercise all of these rights, the more commonplace they'll be, and the fewer polling places we'll have where people don't know what they're doing. If we elevate all of these assistances to, oh, well, of course you can vote. There's this way, there's this way, there's this way, all of the options, the more that becomes common knowledge, the more that we can make voting accessible to everyone, regardless of the situation and regardless of what obstacles may be in the way. It's really, and even if you aren't working the polls, if you have an understanding of what's something that can happen to help someone, you can step in. Hey, I can help you do this. I'll go in and get somebody for you to come out to the car. You can do curbside voting.
Yeah.
I have been so inspired by seeing different workshops, and because once I learned, I wanted everyone to know, and so we did a few workshops for called Pathways to Justice for community members who have various disabilities. And when we brought the voting information, when everyone understood what their options were, they were excited about voting. They were excited about the process. They were excited about participation. And I think that's an important element in voting, is that this is how we participate. This is the way we do it. And it's the most fundamental thing that we have to exercise our voice. And to, capitalize on our choices. And every person should be understanding of how they can do that. And I've been so inspired. And, this election coming up in November, we've registered at least 20 nationally in all of these elections. It's been very, very exciting.
Yes. Yay. I know you went to, last I talked to you, you were going to work with Jennifer. I have heard since that you have done several workshops with the Department of Elections in Loudoun County, which I think is fantastic. And I want to say thank you. I thank you for allowing me to be part of that program too.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Young people with various disabilities have lots of issues to think about when they're voting, that affect them personally. Local transportation, jobs, minimum wage, all of these issues.
Brings me up to, if you don't have a driver's license, you can obtain a free ID card at your local, voter ID card at your local
Board of Elections.
Board of Elections. Thank you.
And one of the things that we did find out too is that these ID cards, the machines that make them are mobile. And every single Board of Elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia has a machine to do this.
So I did not know that. I'm going to bring this up to our league members.
So you can go to your Board of Elections and get a card made for you. But if you have an event and you speak with the representative from the Board of Elections, they can actually bring that machine to you. and they can take
Wow.
the pictures. Now, I don't believe you get the card on the same day. They'll send it to you in the mail, but they can take the picture, they can put the information in, they can get everything together so that then you get that ID in the mail at a later date.
Because we do a lot of nursing homes, and I can see a lot of the nursing homes, they no longer have their driver's license. Not all of them, of course, but
Right,
I will bring
right.
that up. That is
Yeah,
interesting.
you just call and you make the arrangements ahead of time, and that's what they do.
Then I'm going to go over two other things that we had uncovered or discuss or have on the disability guide.
Hmm.
One, guardianship. If somebody is your guardian, there's different reasons where you have a guardianship. You can still vote.
As long as it's in the guardianship
Ship
paperwork.
decree, right, in
Yeah,
the
but just
paperwork.
because you have guardianship doesn't automatically mean you don't have the right to vote.
Right.
It
It
could
has
be
to
maintained.
expressly say that you can.
That's right.
Yeah. So you can look into that and again, talk to your Board of Elections. And then you can get your rights back.
If they've been
For
taken
your,
away, you
yeah,
can actually request for your rights to come back, to
yeah,
be reinstated.
right, right. So I think that covers everything. I'm going to go over the list here. You can register online. You have until October 13th for the November 3rd, 2020 election. Register at, it says here, elections.virginia.gov. I'm not sure, is that still legit? I'm going to check.
I believe so. And I think that's part of the Board of Elections through the state.
Yeah,
It's their website.
yeah.
Mhm.
Elections with an S. I'm just double checking because, yes, that elections dot. You can also go to Vote 411. They'll tell you where to go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, elections.virginia. You can request for assistance to help you at the polling place. You do have to fill out another form. You could do curbside voting by calling them when you get there. They should
Mhm.
be a phone number outside the polling place. You can go by absentee ballot. And as Claire said, this is a great opportunity for you to take your time and read the different issues that might be on it. We have 3 constitutional amendments that are on there. And for league members, vote yes on one, just saying. For everyone, vote yes on one. And then you can obtain a you can obtain a free voter ID card if you don't have any picture ID, because that is still required. I think a lot of league members would like to still get rid of that. And I think, and if if your guardianship decree does not say explicitly you can't vote, you can vote. And I think I covered everything. And then
That's
there's
correct.
early in-person voting, and that's open to everyone. The
Early
absentee
in-person voting.
person
Yes.
um, and then voting on voting day. But the curbside assistance, I think that's even open to everyone.
It is open to everyone. You don't have to show any documentation from a doctor, nothing. All you have to do is be at the curb, call the number, or as you said, you may want to bring someone with you just in case they need to go in and request the assistance. But there is no, oh, you don't have a broken leg. Sorry, I can't help you. You can request that. Anybody can for any reason, and you don't even have to. They're not even going to ask you why.
Hmm.
Yeah, they shouldn't. They shouldn't anyway.
Actually,
And
even when I did the voter in person, the early in person, we were going to Florida and we weren't going to be there for voting day. They never asked for tickets
that's
or
right.
anything. They just,
That's right.
but now anyone can do it.
Anybody can do it. And I do want to say that, anybody out there that does have a disability, that is struggling with any type of an issue in voting for one reason or another, as well as 411 is a great resource, Vote 411. But also there in Virginia, we have the Disability Law Center. And one of their major initiatives is, reducing and hopefully eliminating obstacles for people with any disability to vote. They can be an advocate for you if you happen to be at a polling place that is not physically accessible, or if you've had an issue. And also, the Board of Elections. We've had a wonderful relationship with people at the Board of Elections, and hopefully that will continue. And I have found that many of them, their whole goal is for people to get out and vote, to understand the process, and fully participate in the process.
You'll have to send me a link to that. So I'll put it in the description of the box.
I'll do that.
Yeah, that will be helpful for everyone. I didn't know that existed either. So I'm learning something new. Woohoo!
Yep.
Thank you, Claire. I'm going to exit out